Welcome to my little internet of the side of the corner. My name is Rita Risha. I am joined today with two very great, awesome guests in the B2B space that I will be bringing up on our virtual stage. But just so everyone knows listening, or maybe listening after the fact, this is called LinkedIn Water Cooler Talk. And the point is bringing random people together by the virtual water cooler and having a candid conversation about their expertise in business and life and kind of seeing what happens, because we are all human at the end of the day. We don't always have it together, but that's okay. We show up in spite of that, and we do awesome things when we can come together with brilliant people. So first up on my virtual water cooler stage, I'm bringing up Miss Christina Kay.
Woo. Hey, woo, woo. Love it. Hey, everybody. My name is Christina, like she said. I'm the VP of Marketing and RevOps over at Reseller Ratings, where we amplify the voice of shoppers with UGC. And then also that helps, obviously, the brands get that trustworthy authenticity. And I've been in the tech B2B space for almost 15 years now. And I just love humanizing B2B because we have to do that, because whether you're B2B, D2C, B2C, whatever letters and numbers you are together, it's humans you're marketing to. So that's what I love to do.
Yes, we are all about that. It is just us being human at the end of the day. I love that. Thank you so much for hopping on by my virtual water cooler, Christina. And now, the person that I have been intrigued by podcasting their show, we're bringing onto our stage Jason Bradwell of the B2B Better podcast. Woo!
Hey everybody, intrigued is an interesting word. I hope a good
Positively intrigued.
Positively intrigued.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us about yourself, Jason, and what you do, and give us the rundown.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for having me. I'm really glad to be with you both here today. My name is Jason. I run a strategic marketing advisory firm called B2B Better. We work with technical solution providers, companies offering complex value propositions, and help them conceive and implement a modern day marketing strategy, all with the goal of helping generate that most important metric, which is revenue. I've been working in marketing for about 10 years. It was very serendipitous. I didn't plan to become a B2B marketer. I went to uni to study drama and theater.
Did any of us plan to become B2B marketers?
I definitely did not have it on my wall, like as a 10-year-old boy. One day I will become a B2B marketer and care about revenue attribution. But it's where I ended up, and I love what I do.
That's so cool. I resonate with the whole former music. I was a former theater kid and music major before I ventured into this world. I like to say I Alice in Wonderland fell into it, and here I am chasing the rabbit every day. Who knows what I'm doing? But it's an adventure, and I so enjoy it. But I think all of us can no matter what background we came from, we can all resonate with this idea of being human that Christina mentioned a second ago. So, Christina, give me a little bit more of your 2 cents on what making marketing or B2B human is. And then, Jason, maybe tie in your perspective on that philosophy right after. So go ahead, Christina.
Yeah, I think, honestly, B2B in the past, people have thought about it too much, essentially, when it comes to marketing, PR, everything like that, because that's what you had to do. Really, it's what the only way was. And so, and I think for me, I've always thought about it as trying to find that Wendy's Twitter personality for your B2B business. And sometimes that's hard, and that's getting buy-in from obviously execs, because you're supposed to just talk about yourself, obviously, right, on LinkedIn, and you have the best product, but really, do you? And do people really want to hear that all the time? No. And so people just want to talk to humans, especially after being kind of isolated, essentially, with the pandemic. People want really great conversations. And that's not just with prospecting, that's with customers. So with our CS team, it's not just about talking about features and things like that. You really want to have that partnership, because B2B is, yes, essentially business to business, but you want them to also succeed, and you want them to think in the sense they want you to succeed. And so kind of changing that mindset is super important, and coming to them. I almost said at them. That sounds like, oh, like aggressive, coming at them. No, I mean, I am that way. Ask Rita. I am that way for sure. But in a human aspect, because, and it's hard to explain like what it is. It's just being real, honestly. It just like pulling back the curtain and showing the humans of the tech, and showing yourselves before the tech. I think that's what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's part of what interests people about my personal podcast, Bippity Boppity Business, because it's like, where is the B2B in that? Where is the whatever in that? And I always like to say, like, you'd be surprised how many very well-to-do B2B professionals are like closet Disney fans. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's an icebreaker, it's a networking thing, because there is a human side. So rather than coming at somebody from an angle of like, oh, what do you do for a living, or oh, whatever, or like, tell me about your company, tell me about your business, they hear about my podcast and they're like, oh, my kids and I are going to Disney next week. Do you have any advice? And I'll be like, yeah, whatever. And they're like, yeah, I actually really like Disney and whatever. And then like the conversation, because of the human side of what you like outside of work, starts to happen. So Jason, what do you think about making B2B better, humanizing B2B? What are some of your thoughts or strategies or in what you do and elements of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the word that kept ringing around in my head as Christina was talking was just this word authenticity, right? And as a B2B brand, being authentic in your marketing and your sales materials. I come at it from a slightly different perspective. The companies I work with are typically enterprise tech, really long sales cycles, really short windows of sales opportunity. Deals could take anything from kind of 6 months to 3 years to close, but the kind of window of time where you're trying to engage with a prospect when they flip to being in market and actually looking for a solution is really, really small. And I think that idea of authenticity and humanity that you can exhibit as a B2B brand is really important in being memorable. And you want to minimize the amount of work that you have to do in trying to identify when is that window of opportunity, and making sure that we have someone from sales reaching out at that time, so that when that enterprise buyer does flip to being in market, they remember that authenticity, they remember that humanity, and they're coming to you. I don't think the type of companies I work with and their buyers necessarily are looking for a super emotional relationship. There are definitely B2B companies where that resonates. I think particularly in like high volume SaaS products, high volume, low ACV SaaS products, which do feel a lot more consumer like. If you're selling like a major 7-figure enterprise SI solution, you really just want it to work, right? You're not going to be walking around wearing their t-shirt or their hats as the CTO making that massive client. Maybe there's a case, but I think for the most part, it is a little bit more functional. But I think the kind of modern day marketing that I'm working with my clients on is taking some of those elements that you were talking about there, Christina, that authenticity, that humanity, and just dropping them into our marketing work, our marketing strategy, to increase the likelihood that when that window of opportunity opens, they remember us and they come to us because we're doing something all of our competitors are not, which is being authentic and being human.
And I will say, when I was on the enterprise side, when I was working in like the big tech with like three par switches and like HPE and Juniper, things like that, those approaches were different. And I would say there was one campaign that we did that was really tongue in cheek, and the kind of commercials, quote unquote, we had like an actor we chose, and it was like I shouldn't say low grade, because that's not what I mean. It was like not like a very known, but if you watch commercials, you would recognize this person. Okay.
Yeah.
So
a notable person. Notable person.
And it was interesting because we were like worried about it. We're like, hopefully this lands. But it did, because we basically were making fun of our pain points and issues, I guess you could say, in that space. And so, and I can't I'm not going to say exactly what it was, but it was interesting because we were like, hopefully this works, and it did. But I will say it was hard to convince the executives of that, because at the company I was at, we basically marketed on behalf of these enterprise brands. We weren't like an agency, but if you guys have heard of like Tech Data or like Ingram, they are like distributors, and under them are like companies that help them essentially. And so that was the company I was at, and we had a bunch of very big enterprise names, I guess you could say, that we were marketing for. And we had marketing budget with them, and we had a lot of marketing budget with them. And I would say 40-50% of it, maybe higher than that, was for campaigns for sales, essentially for trips to win and things like that. But then the rest of it was to market essentially their business. And you're so right with the sense of this, like the sales cycle being 3 months to 3 years, it could really range. And with that, it's less about the getting to know them as a human. Obviously after 3 years, you're going to have to know them, like it's going to happen. And so, and at that point you might wear the t-shirt, because that was a long time, to be honest. But
you might want a t-shirt to make yourself feel good.
It gotta be like a good brand. Like not like a regular, just like cotton. It needs to be a nice t-shirt.
It needs to be a bougie t-shirt. If I win that sales deal after 3 years, I need to be vindicated by it.
Exactly. Like some like Versace or something. I don't know. I'm just joking. But they probably don't have swag. Maybe, you never know. If you have the money, you can make it happen. But but I will say, with that being said, I have seen a lot of big enterprise, like tech, that you wouldn't really think be that human side, kind of go to that, because that's how they can stand out, and that's how they can be different. So I totally get it in that sense. And I will say, I know of an enterprise, even like the CRM side, which I know a lot of in that world. Those, two brands in my mind are becoming, well, one of them has already done this, but one is kind of going after that human aspect, because again, they have to do that to stand out, other than just being a CRM and this thing that's powering your business. You're in it every day, so
what
you have to do that.
What do you both think about ClickUp? Would you consider that being like one of the, not quite tech SaaS? It's just like, it's software. It's not just like
SaaS. I would say it's
it is SaaS. Yeah,
it is SaaS, 100%.
I think with ClickUp, their addressable market is so broad, right? I use ClickUp, and they've got a free version of the tool, which I use, and I use it every single day, and it's a real core part of my business operations. So I appreciate a lot more of the kind of emotional brand marketing that they do. I watch the ads on YouTube. I consume a lot of that I follow them on social media. I enjoy what they put out. They're also selling up into big major enterprise accounts. They cover that full gambit. And as you say, Christina, I think there is definitely benefit in embracing a little bit more of the emotional side of marketing at that enterprise level, if for no other reason than the bar with your competitors is so low anyway, that just you stand out by virtue of doing that. I just think as marketers, we have to be somewhat mindful when we're pitching these ideas to executive teams and to our clients hey, we can do this big, massive brand campaign that's going to really extol our brand values and really make people care about our brand. It's like, first, we have to solve their problem. We have to make sure that we can actually solve their problem. And it's not just vaporware or a sales deck, that we can develop a solution that's going to help them achieve their job. If we can do that, if we can repeatedly deliver that level of service to multiple clients, and from a marketing perspective, we're hitting our revenue metrics, only then should we be looking at that kind of more brand emotional piece. Because ultimately, particularly with the economic climate as the way it is now, if we're not delivering on commercial metrics, we're in really big trouble, really hot water. So I think there's something to say there about that.
And I also, because in my like operational RevOps kind of whole journey mind, if you're if your brand campaign, whatever you want to call it, is one way and it gets them in, and if it's not the experience they have throughout it, you're not going to keep that client, whether that be whatever. So it needs to also go in line with like your values that are internal, but also how your CS, how your support, how your implementation, whatever it is, operates as well. And so it's almost like a change of, not change management, but kind of like, hey, this is how we're going to be going for like solutions, and this is how we're talking about it. And like currently that's what we're working on right now. Like we're changing our, not our voice, because we've always had like the same voice, but changing the way we say it essentially. But then also how CS also then takes it, because for us it's like obviously retention and upsells and even upgrading to different things. So I feel like it has to go through the whole organization, not just like this amazing brand campaign that brings them in or the leads in, because if it doesn't keep going, in my mind, it wasn't a success. You know, I guess it might be a success that first year or maybe months after, but if they leave, what is that?
There's a lot to be said about marketing being conveyed through your customer's journey and the customer experience that they have, like with experiencing and working with the product or the services. Because I like your point there, Christina. You could have all these flashy brand campaigns if you wanted to. Maybe they are aligned with the metrics and the goals and all of that. But if you can't retain the customers that you brought in and the leads through the services and the experience that you provide, then what are you doing? And that's part of what I love about kind of peeping into the world of Disney's business, because they are so focused on being able to keep customers for a very long time and building
like their whole life,
like forever. Like, it really was a silly idea. I was like, okay, so in B2B, what if we could keep customers forever? Like, what kind of experience would that look like? What would we do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, Jason, I'd be interested to hear, like, for you, in making B2B better, like what are some elements of like if you can imagine the experience of somebody, a client rather at a company that, you know, maybe it could be improved, or like, what are your thoughts on that aspect? Because I think we kind of get stuck on certain pieces, but we forget about like the whole piece of the pie, the whole journey sometimes.
Yeah, I'm just going to really just parrot back what Christina said there a moment ago, which is making sure that there's consistency in that handoff between marketing, sales, and customer success. I've seen it time and time again. You know, sales teams are under pressure. Marketing teams are under pressure to hit quota for the quarter. They will say what needs to be said to hit that quota. And this is a very broad generalization, and of course there's nuance and context and all that kind of stuff, but you say what needs to be said to get the deal done, and then you hand it off to a customer success team, and they're left to try and scramble and pick up the pieces and, you know, throw things into roadmaps that were never even conceived of previously. And what's the stat? They say it's like 3 times more expensive to acquire a customer than it is to retain a customer. Why are we doing that to ourselves as businesses, right? Just be consistent, and I think a large part of that is about, you know, bringing these 3 functions, marketing, sales, customer success, closer together and bridging the gaps between them, and ensuring that there's oversight all the way through that customer journey on, you know, what's being said, what's being promised, what's the expectation on the delivery. Do we have a system in place to highlight and red flag potential issues that are going to come up later down the line? Because there's nothing worse, particularly on the enterprise side of things, where you have clients that are locking in for a long time, you know, 2, 3, 5 years, spending a huge amount of money. They've done their due diligence. This isn't about them, you know, not having put in the work. They've done their due diligence, but for whatever reason, they find themselves in a situation where we're now locked into this contract. We're ripping up legacy architecture, and what's been sold is not necessarily what is the reality, but we're stuck. that is just a huge reputational risk that a brand is taking. And particularly the industries I work in, they're relatively small. So word gets around, and there's just no quicker way of killing your brand reputation by, not having that alignment, that consistency from marketing, sales, and all the way through to success.
Yeah, that's so true, because I see it a lot. And it's not like sales fault, or it's honestly too, in the sense of us and the executive team saying, hey, this is like what needs to be kind of sold versus the like the features. It's kind of like that solution mindset. Otherwise, they're never going to think you can do like other things. And we've had the issue of kind of like exactly what you said, of getting this, because it's the end of the quarter, end of whatever, they need to get their things done. And then it goes to implementation, and implementation's like, okay, cool, yeah, you're great. And then passes it. And then the like director of CS, whoever, was like, what the actual F? And like, cause their numbers, like obviously they have numbers too to hit. And then ultimately it's on them if they leave. And they're like, well, it started off shitty. Like that makes no sense. And so like what I've done is in our CRM, I've set it up in a sense of, we have like a health check, health score that is populated based on their actions within our software. But I have it as the, like, whoever gets that account after it goes through, that's if it's a managed account, because some of them who are like lower tiers aren't managed. They basically say if it's a good fit or not. And at that point, then as an executive team, we can go back and like see different things with our ICP, if it's changing or whatever it would be, because that does come into consideration in the fact of when we're looking at those numbers. And if one salesperson is bringing in correct or landing, I guess you can say, crappy stuff, or lying about what things are, like, oh yeah, that's on the roadmap. Because how many times have you heard that when you're on a like SaaS call, they're like, oh yeah, that's on our I'm like, okay, let me see that roadmap. But it's just one, being truthful, obviously. But then it's really the fact of, like we kind of said this over and over, is making sure everything's aligned, making sure that, because what I think is, for me, I want obviously marketing to be successful, but it's not just marketing. It's also like then customer advocacy, which is essentially marketing too. The lead gen, demand gen coming inside, and then even the conversations when they're within our platform. So like our product tours, everything has to be aligned and has to be like cohesive. Otherwise, you're not going to get that connection with your brand. It's not going to like click in your head, because people need consistency, especially in the world we live in now. People need that. Also, it's going to be the same every time I log in, or it's going to be the same every time I talk to them, because otherwise they're going to be like, I've got into different tools before and I'm like, I don't even know where it is anymore. Or it's, who is this person I'm going to talk to today? We're
all like so busy, or it's like, I don't even want to have to think about or solve a problem or think about it. Like, I just want to be able, like, thinking about me as a customer, right? I want to be able to go in and be like, this is the thing. I know it's going to be the same every time. It's the same level of service. It's what I have to expect. I know who I have to talk to. And because of that, I know exactly what I need to be doing next. And I'll probably stick on for longer if that's the case too. It's like Starbucks. I like going to Starbucks because like it's the same every time. It feels like home to me in a new place that I've never been to. It's like, I know what they have to offer. I know what I'm gonna get when I go to a Starbucks.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that similar thing there.
Sure.
But to switch gears just a little bit, we are by the water cooler. We have very smart marketers at a round table here, right? So, and by smart, I mean both of you. I'm a podcast producer and content strategist for that. So marketing is kind of there, but not 100%. I want to talk about your podcasts. So Jason, we'll start with you. Tell me what inspired you to start the B2B Better podcast, and kind of like a little bit about what you do with your show.
Yeah, loneliness, really. It was the middle of the pandemic. It was August 2020, and whilst I've always worked remotely, I did used to go into the office on occasion and get to connect with my marketing colleagues, and that just stopped, right? And I started spending a lot of time on Twitter, meeting a lot of amazing marketers over there, and was just doing Zoom calls and sharing war stories, ways of working, for me as a B2B marketer looking for inspiration from like B2C and D2C best practices. And I just thought at one point, this would be a great podcast. Let's just start recording some of these conversations and publishing them. And the first few were really terrible. In fact, I don't think I've ever done an episode that I've been like 100% happy with, but it's definitely come a really long way. And I'm really glad I've done it, because when I set up my business, which is also called B2B Better, it really provided me with a soft landing. Rather than having to suddenly go out there and prospect and introduce myself to prospective customers, I already had 60, 70 plus episodes of content behind me that people tune into every week to listen. And they understand my perspective on the space, my evolving perspective on the space. They understand my capabilities. They can see I'm curious. And that set me up really well to kind of close those initial deals. So I love doing it. I consider it a craft. I recently switched from a more like Q&A style format to a more narrative driven format, where I'll do the interview like we're doing much now, but then I'll record in post-production my own kind of takeaways and insights and do like sound effects and things like that. So I'm trying to really approach it as a, piece of media now, as opposed to just an interview, like a Zoom interview. A lot more work, but I really enjoy it. And I've definitely noticed an uptick in listeners as well.
That's so cool. Have you heard of Jay Akonzo by any chance?
He's the one who inspired me about it. Jay and I know each other. Yeah, I had him on the podcast and we talked about this very topic.
Yeah.
And actually, I walked away from that podcast and decided right there and then that I was going to try and take inspiration from his podcast, Unthinkable, and kind of tailor mine accordingly. I think he's an amazing podcast and amazing creator.
He's amazing. I got to do some workshops with him and stuff too. And when I started learning about podcasting and the narrative storytelling aspect too, and some of those elements are like what I try to like work with my clients on and find ways to infuse. And at the same time, I've come to a point where I'm like, I love doing that work. And every now and then at the same time, I still want to like just kind of like hang out with people too. I think the beauty is that there's space for both. And it depends on like that, how you set up that platform, how you create those expectations, So for Bippity Boppity, it's definitely like produced and like story and research. And here I'm just like, it's essentially a live stream. I think we can all just hang out and talk. And I think there's necessity for both of those things, especially as marketers. I feel like, or like content creators, whatever you want to call us these days, right? There's so much, like you said, expectation for perfection from what we do that it can be a little like daunting or overwhelming, or like showing up and having everything look exceptional. I'm like, I want to create a space where people can just not be that and be okay and just still know each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, you can do both, right?
Right.
Like,
and you can do both.
And that's the thing I think about. Like we can talk about this in more detail, but like operationalizing the production of your content.
Yeah.
We do this like LinkedIn Live right now. Mm-hmm. Christina's shared some amazing, like really insightful points. You could take that content and repackage it into a more narrative driven, highly produced artifact. So you're getting 2 bites of the cherry, right?
Yeah.
But that only comes, I think if you're a solo creator, it's harder. If you're a business and you have some capacity in terms of people or budget or resources, it's quite simple to put in place that operational structure to take content from one place, repackage it, and distribute it as something else, and just get better surface coverage in that case.
That's good inspiration for us. I love that. Christina, tell us about your podcast and what inspired you to start it.
Yeah. So I recently just started it because I am a solo marketer really on my team, and I needed more honestly, it was to repurpose the content that I'm creating with others in the conversations, whether that be like blog posts, Q&A, ebooks, social posts, all of the above. But then also I had this like inkling in a sense of talking to brands, and that's like all brands. So D2C, B2C, our customers, prospective customers, things like that, about just amplifying their voices and amplifying like what they're doing, because I feel we don't celebrate especially in in e-com, celebrate people's wins a lot because it's such a industry that people, one, they change their tech they use a lot of the times, not like their shopping cart like Shopify or e-commerce. That's a whole other, that's something that people don't change a lot, but just the other tech they use and just kind of amplifying what their successes are, honestly, because I've listened to so many different marketing podcasts, and it's a lot of the times about industries like SaaS companies, essentially, which, yes, I have a lot of SaaS companies on my podcast, but I want to amplify the people who are behind like the in-house brands as well, because that's not really a thing that a lot of people talk to, because people think of them as the fun marketers, which yes, they are, but so are we, and I just wanted to really give them that platform to like talk. And also for me, I wanted to have conversations, like kind of not hard, but kind of hard conversations in the sense of if brands have controversy with them, I want to like talk about that and see like how they approach it, how they've changed things, because otherwise those hard conversations can help others in hard times. And I'm not saying we're going to like spill the beans or spill the tea or beans, whatever one you want to say.
I like saying spill the tea.
Yeah.
I'm very much a millennial.
Yeah, I know. I mean, spill the beans. I feel like that makes me, I don't know why I said that. Usually I'm like, spill the tea, whatever it is, but spill something. Okay. Spill some type of food, but it really helps people feel like, okay, you know what? It's not just me, and I really can get through this. And one of my conversations, or even just getting to know people, honestly, this one guy that I talked to, I think it was like the first episode of like season 2, a couple weeks ago, I put like a post up on Polywork about, hey, I'm looking for people on my podcast. And I had like so many people were like, yeah. And so then I got like overwhelmed with it. I'm like, shit, like, I don't know what I just got myself into with this. And so, but also I'm like an overachiever. I'm like, yes, let's do like 2 a day, And I'm like, but my brain, that's a lot. So the one guy, we got to talking, and he was talking about his like daughter, how she was like an all-star cheerleader. And I used to do all-star cheerleading and dance growing up. And I recently joined an open team. So like, basically an adult, like 18 and up team again. So we're competing again. It's kind of fun because it's competing. It's really like the team that I used to be on before. And he was talking about how he loves that world, but he is like a creative director for a pretty big like D2C agency and has worked with like Kylie Cosmetics, David Yurman, like big names, and just talking about that, but then relating it to like a cheerleading stunt. And I love those conversations because it gets you thinking less about the mundane of different things, but relating it to aspects like cheerleading, or whatever it would be. So that's why I started it, but also I like talking and I like meeting people. Yeah. So, and I just like amplifying people's voices that don't get heard a lot. So that's why.
So cool. And that's why I kind of like found this world of LinkedIn to be such a fertile, I hate that word, fertile place to find connections. Ew, fertile. Who am I? To find connections and in the podcasting space too. And I feel like, talking about pivoting towards LinkedIn a little bit. What are some ways that you both have found LinkedIn to be useful in your podcasting or your career that you would have like never expected of, say, 3-4 years ago? I'll start with you, Jason.
I was hoping Christina could take the baton on that one first.
I can.
Yeah, you go first.
Go ahead, Christina.
Yeah. So it's funny because I used to like think LinkedIn like wasn't my favorite like social media or whatever. But I've come to realize that it kind of is, because instead of me being so like perfect and Christina like work wise on LinkedIn, like where I used to be, I'm like vulnerable. I'm myself. I really don't care anymore. That sounds awful, but you love me or hate me, and that is what it is. And so like that's what I am on LinkedIn now. And I had a conversation yesterday with someone who basically, and she was on a panel that I was on, that I moderated last year at a conference. And she was talking about how I almost started crying when she said this. It was basically like, your like vulnerability and just being yourself on LinkedIn is super like motivational. And I just really look forward to hearing things that you're saying, because it's just less about you essentially. But yes, like you're saying, your wins, but it's also a relatable factor, or you're just also encouraging others and things like that. And so I think for me, I was like, I don't think I do that. You know, it's like that. But then obviously if someone says it, I have to be like, oh, wow, Christina, like, good job, you know?
Yeah.
But I think LinkedIn, for me, I think of it less as a place to like find people for their podcasts. Like, yes, that is obviously a place where you can do that. But I just love it because I will say it's getting to that, like people are allowing themselves to be vulnerable. And I do selfishly love that LinkedIn is kind of, and I will say some people are, it's kind of annoying, but the B2B like influencer content creator thing is like becoming like a thing. And well, it is a thing right now, but I think it's growing bigger.
It's like developing further. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of like the like influencers that just say swipe up for these gummies, you know, whatever they did for like every Bachelor contestant did the same ones. And it's less about that. And I feel like it's showing it, but also for me, because I'm the marketer, I'm like, this is such a gold mine for customer advocacy and people like for that part of your business. And I'm trying to like pitch that to my executives because it's more authentic than me saying as a marketer, we're the best, blah, 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 or even the company side of it. It's that advocacy of your customers talking, or even prospective customers like saying, hey, this was a great demo, or whatever it would be. That is such gold, because people relate to humans, back to what we talked about in the beginning. And I feel like that is why I love LinkedIn so much. And I love like TikTok, to be honest with you, because it's fun. And I'm like that personality that I just like, TikTok makes me laugh. But I also like that people are putting their TikToks on LinkedIn. You know, I think that just shows the way we're going, instead of being so, I don't mean to say stuck up, but I don't mean stuck up. But yeah, like, so like, you know, because that's not how work should be, honestly, because you literally work more than works a lot, you know, and make it fun, make it something that you enjoy doing. And so that's what I approach LinkedIn as. And I think that's why it's probably one of my favorite platforms right now.
I have a slightly different perspective on LinkedIn.
Let's hear the different perspectives. Let's make it a spicy debate. Let's go.
I wouldn't say it's particular. That was fantastic. Great sound effect. As I said, like, I started the podcast because I was spending a lot of time on Twitter, and I was really, really enjoying my time on Twitter. And I built up quite a good following, like, relatively speaking, you know, for B2B marketers. I think last time I looked, it was like 12,500 people. And whereas on LinkedIn, I've just crossed the 5,000 mark. I very much felt on Twitter like it was all of the things that you just described there, Christina, like a real sense of community, and you got to know people, not just professions. And I made a ton of really great friends over the course of like 2 or 3 years of the time I spent on there. LinkedIn for me was always a utility. It was something that I knew that as a B2B marketer, and particularly one that was going to eventually set up his own business, I needed to be active on. Not that I don't feel comfortable sharing personal stuff on LinkedIn. I just felt like it was a little bit more of a jarring experience than what you would see on Twitter. So I never really have used it for that purpose. I've, in the last couple of months, spent less time on Twitter, not because necessarily just because of Elon, but I felt like a lot of the changes that he was instigating and kind of the haphazard approach he took to kind of product development, and it definitely had a knock-on effect to engagement. Not just a lot of creators I know built up big followings over the pandemic on Twitter started to see like declines across almost every single metric. Kind of forced me to spend more time on LinkedIn. So I'm still getting used to it. I'm getting my feet under the table with LinkedIn. I'm still trying to figure out how and where I feel comfortable in using it.
Yeah.
But I feel like it is lacking a little bit more of that kind of personable community feel. Like a lot of the stuff I see in my feed is marketers like pitching themselves, either directly or indirectly. here is a service I offer, or here is a point of view I have on the world that leads into a service that I offer.
And then there's me. I'm the weird one. That's like, so to what I learned at Disney today is, and how it applies to your business. And oh, look at me. I talk to a Disney animator and sparkles and whatever, and I don't even care. And I think what you're saying is beneficial though, Jason, because a lot of people still on LinkedIn can be very self-serving with their content and do still have that maybe like old school idea of marketing of like, here's what I'm doing, talking about me. This is my service. This is pictures of us doing business with our people. And the worst are the businesses that talk about their companies and they have stock photos of like showing like their team and like what they do for a living, but it's like stock photos of what they do for a living, other business practices. And it is a whole full circle thing of just like, no matter what platform you're on, building those authentic connections, they could take a couple of months, they could take a few years, being authentic, being human, and just being willing to try new things in an environment where there's a lot of stress and, kind of projection to be perfect. In spite of that, being yourself, I think is what will make you resilient and stand out in long term, especially in B2B. That's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. And I also think, I'm very sarcastic, Jason, so do not take this as a thing, but it's the content you interact with. So start interacting with more positive, fun things, and that's what you're served. Okay, as a marketer, you should know this.
Yeah.
But, I'm joking, but really, I think it's also the communities you're in. Like I will say, I'm very fortunate with like within like the HubSpot community. I think because of that, like that's a lot of the content I'm getting served by the people that I'm connected with in that world. And that world is becoming bigger because HubSpot's just becoming bigger. And I think that, that's really the main group I really not connect with, but interact with, that I see a lot of their things. And so I think it's the communities you're in that helps inspire you, honestly.
No, I hear you. I think maybe the slight difference between the two platforms is, I agree. I agree with this whole concept of people on LinkedIn are generally becoming more comfortable with the idea of like sharing their personal lives on the platform, and I think that's definitely a good thing and a move in the right direction. On Twitter, someone's watching the Super Bowl, they can just do like a blow by blow, tweet storm on their thoughts on the ads that are being broadcast, right? If you're watching the latest episode of The Last of Us, you can very easily and quickly, and it's expected that you share commentary like to that part of your day. You don't see too much of that on LinkedIn. And like we said right at the very beginning of this session, about finding those like human connections, a shared love of Disney, a shared love of a sport, kids, going same ages and kind of sharing those experiences with one another. I feel like that's easier to achieve on LinkedIn because it's just more scalable. Like the mechanism is there to make it more scalable. LinkedIn, you're not going to see someone posting 50 times in the day their take on, well, they may do, but the minority,
but
right?
we might look at them like a little bit kind of odd if they're posting 50 times a day. It might be a little bit like, I don't know,
exactly.
Go get a life.
But then I should go on Twitter and tweet.
Yeah, so go on Twitter and do that. Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a place for all of that. Well,
exactly. But yeah.
I appreciate both of you entertaining me by my virtual water cooler today and coming by to just chit chat. And what I'm going to end this with is I'm going to ask each of you, what are you looking forward to in the next week, either personally or professionally, that has you really excited to do life? So I'm going to ask you, Jason, what are you looking forward to in the next week, either personally or professionally?
So my wife and daughter have been in France for the last 2 weeks, visiting my in-laws, and they got back on Sunday. So this weekend will be the first weekend that I've managed to spend with them for a couple of weeks, and we're going to something called Bug Fest.
Bug Fest.
It's like a kids' day where they can learn all about bugs and insects and stuff at our local community center. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That's pretty cool. Christina, what about you?
So mine's not about Bugfest. That is fun.
You mean I'm not going to see you there?
No, I mean I would fly there. I would love to go to Bugfest. But I've been recently asked to plan an event with Google. It's a part of Google developers. It's called Women Tech Makers. And I'm planning an event for International Women's Day. And so I'm just working on finding people who want to speak and sponsors. And I actually landed a venue that is like basically donating their space. And it's a really, really cool co-working, vibey tech space. And so now it's just getting other people involved. So I'm really focusing on that this week. And I'm just super excited to celebrate women in tech and diversity and just planning that event. So it's kind of overwhelming, honestly, but it's also, I think, overwhelming for me, and challenges inspire me. So it's going to be hopefully good. If not, it's okay. We can't win at everything.
You're going to kill it. You're going to do a great job, Christina. Come on. Come on. Hyping you up. Let's go for that event. Yes. Okay. It's going to be amazing.
So yeah, that's what I'm
looking forward to is just finalizing the launch of one of the shows that I'm helping produce called Power Women of the Trades. And the second episode went live today, but I'm really looking forward to it just being into the handoff of ongoing smooth production, because activations and launches are really exciting and fun. They're also really tiresome. So I'm looking forward to relaxing in that. And because my clients are so awesome, they gave me a spa day as a gift for thanking me for the launch. So
Lovely.
That there's a real looking forward to that, because when it is done, I will be treating myself with the spa day. Okay. So that's pretty amazing.
That's
As awesome. You should.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope. Okay. So find yourself some clients that'll get you a spa day, a facial, a massage. I think we all need it every now and then.
For real.
You too, Jason. It's okay.
I'm not one for spa days. I was talking to a friend about this the other day. No, I went to a place in Cambodia once where they crushed up a lot of mango and stuck it on my face, and I did not enjoy that experience at all.
And you're like, what is this? I don't know.
I just like, do I eat it? Do I leave it?
Just like
now it's drying on my face. It's not pleasant. And then you're going to rub it into my face? No.
I mean, honestly, that doesn't sound very appealing to me either. So spa days for me are like massages and like some champagne, that's really
as long as there's champagne. Maybe with the mangoes, if there's enough champagne, it'll work for me. I don't know. Do I get to infuse them in my booze?
In the champagne?
Yeah, booze infused champagne. Mango. See, I didn't even put mango in there. I just thought
you've already started drinking.
I have not. I wish I was. That would be different, but we're not quite to the weekend yet. So, anyways, thank you both for hopping around my virtual water cooler, and let us know how we can find you, connect with you on your podcast, your platform. If you want to have a more eloquent conversation on your shows, this is just the chill one that we have. So Jason, go ahead. Tell us where we can find you.
So you can visit my website, www.b2b-better.com, podcast, same name, B2B Better. I'm actually moving on to my own live stream in approximately 30 minutes, where we're going to be talking about AI in marketing and whether it's a blessing or a curse. So do check that out. But yeah, B2B Better, that's the name.
Awesome. So for me, you can find me basically LinkedIn, Twitter, everything. Instagram is it's Christina Kay or the Christina Kay. So find me there. And then the Trust Factor podcast. If you are a brand, come reach out, and I'd love to talk to you.
That's that. My name is Rita Risha, as you can see from here and all over my LinkedIn profile plastered. You can find me here because everywhere else I'm not on as much because I'm here a lot. So if you have any questions about how to reignite your podcast, or just take your podcast content to the next level, or you just want to talk to me, because I also don't mind hanging out too, you can find me here. So thank you both for joining me today on the show, and we'll catch you all on the next casual water cooler chat. Let's do a little dance out.
We're dancing out.